Hey guys, it's your pal Victor here from Cult Classics and Cult Following, continuing our Sundance video capsule reviews. This one is for a fantasy drama film called The Blazing World, which was written and directed and stars Carlson Young. Sort of about, ostensibly it's supposed to be about, Carlson Young plays Margaret, and since Margaret was 6 years old, she's been haunted by the memory of watching her sister drown during a fight with her parents. As a young woman, she slides further into her twisted inner life, ultimately finding herself on the brink of suicide. Through an epic journey down the smokiest corridors of her imagination, she tries to exorcise the demons pushing her closer to the edge. So this is sounds like an interesting, a description, and that's why I chose to watch this movie. I can tell you, this movie, I hated it. I thought it was terrible. Yeah, terrible is not even the word. I feel it was amateurishly made. I think having the writer and director Carlson Young also play the lead, the whole thing feels like you're watching a bad play. It has Vanessa Shaw, who, if you've ever seen Hocus Pocus, she was the love interest for the kid, and she plays Margaret's mother, and she has early on playing her mother. She does a good job, and Dermot Mulroney does a good job of playing her father in the more grounded scenes. This whole thing about loss and twisted inner life, it never really shows up in the movie, and it's by evoking imagery and straight up the same blocking and sets from other movies, and it's so obnoxious in this movie. Udo Kier plays essentially a white hair that leads her down it's Alice in Chains, Alice in Wonderland. I'm sorry, Alice in Wonderland rabbit hole that turns into Coraline, where she has to find all these keys to free herself from this world, and it's I'm like, oh my god, this is fucking Coraline. And then each of these vignettes is ripping off another movie or artist. She has to visit a different version of her mother. This other mother lives in a whole setup that looks exactly like The Cell. Udo Kier gives her a key, and he's basically the pale man from Pan's Labyrinth. When you go into her house, it's the Overlook, and there's a full-on ripoff of Wendy Carlos Williams' theme to The Shining. And at that point, I was like, what the fuck is this? And I'm just gonna go on a little rant here. If you have a movie that has an obtuse narrative, basically I'm not gonna reveal anything, and everything's gonna be artsy, and all the set pieces are borrowed from other movies that are obvious, like The Neon Demon or The Shining or Pan's Labyrinth or The Cell, then fucking A, you better add something to that stew to make it add something of yourself to that stew to make it unique. Because my god, it's so derivative. And adding there's there's a scene where she goes to a bar and there's a music performance that's straight out of Blue Velvet. It's fucking obnoxious. I watch a lot of movies. I think I'm an astute student of film, and I think most people who would watch a movie like this would recognize all these references, and they're not clever. They're the most iconic scenes from these movies, and you're acting sort of oh, it's my own thing, and it's obnoxious, and it doesn't add depth to your movie. Referencing it at that point, you're just oh yeah, scary movies deep because they tell you the joke of the movie they're parodying. This is the scary movie of shitty art house fantasy horror dramas. That's how much it irritated me, and I felt mad I had to sit through the rest of this movie realizing that man, where is this going? And it's really, the resolution of this movie is campy and shitty. I feel the lead up to, you know, oh, she's got all these keys, and then you end up in like this fucking neon demon blue cage. Oh, there's red lights, so we have to have Udo Kier, and ooh, that's Suspiria. You know, it's just like, and I will say the only thing that's good in this movie, are the early performances before we go into these alternate worlds by Dermot Mulroney and Vanessa Shaw, and Udo Kier as this kind of like mystical character. But man, there's just like the narrative here is basically non-existent. There were a couple of reviews I read like, oh my god, this movie drove me to tears, such an exploration of grief, and I was just like, seriously? I mean, it's so heavy-handed and just bullshit. Like, you know, I was, like I said, you can still see it. I'm irritated, you know, like, you know, my girlfriend sometimes says, oh, this movie, like, oh, it's pondering its navel, essentially. That's not what she says. She has a specific phrase, but it's just, it's just, this movie takes itself so seriously, and it just, you know, it's like, you know, kind of putting like, you know, a feather on, you know, a feather on a hat on a pig or something. You know, I was just really irritated by this, you know, because, you know, I've been to Sundance and I've sat through a few stinkers. Like, before this, the only movie I really saw that pissed me off this much watching it was like The Violent Kind in like 2010. I think that was at the library, or Eccles. No, it was at the library, but it was just like, what the fuck, dude? Did I seriously just waste my time and money on this movie that's just like trying to be just like this overcooked mess? And that's kind of just what it feels like, an overcooked mess. You know, maybe the short is better, but it's just like this. It was just like, oh god, it's trying to be Labyrinth. It's trying to be Pan's Labyrinth. You know, it's not really saying anything. Even like when you have to use CGI to dilate a kid's eyeball in a film, it's like, really? Really? You know, and I respect a low budget filmmaker, but it's just like, come on, man. Like, if this whole thing is about grief, you have to give me some grief on screen, or actual something, not just a kid floating in a pool for 2 seconds, fights you don't show, and like this tortured inner life. Oh, what? Because you fuck some random guy at a bar wearing a shitty bridesmaid's dress, supposed to be a princess outfit? I mean, I don't know. Like I said, I might be in the minority on this one. I saw a lot of positive reviews, but I couldn't get into it, and it just made me mad. So there you go. Those are my thoughts on The Blazing World. I'll have some more reviews up, but yeah, so far this is probably the bottom of the festival for me. Yeah, dead last, my least favorite movie of the festival. But yeah, I'll have more reviews up soon. Keep tuning in, and I will talk to you all soon. All right, thanks, guys.